big week for me. Big week in my neck of the woods, you should say. I was on Piers Morgan yesterday. We pre-recorded it then, and then they released it today. And that is kind of blowing the fuck up all over Twitter. Because apparently when Piers Morgan was grilling me about my personal feelings towards blacks and racism in general, I didn't back down. I mean, what did you expect? Do you know who I am, Piers? Do you even vet your guests before you have them on? Needless to say, I won't be back. And so with that in mind, I went out in a blaze of glory, okay? Kept my cool. I never, act the fool, believe it or not. I always try to keep my cool in these kind of things. And I mean, judging just from the reaction online, from the comments under Piers Morgan's own show, under his own Twitter account, I won. It was a total Lilly and Myron victory. Should we get right into the Piers thing? I did a reaction to this, a live watch on my YouTube, so you can go check that out. But I figured, why not give you guys a little bit of a taste of what I went through on Piers Morgan? Because this is kind of like big news for moi. This is the big times, boys. Piers Morgan. Though, honestly, he's a idiot, and I don't really care what he has to say, so I wasn't, very frazzed. I wasn't really stressed out on that show, because it was like, what are we doing, dude? Let's go to some of the highlights here. Thank God Myron was there, by the way, or I'd have been all alone getting attacked. I hardly ever got to speak to, and then whenever I did, he kept cutting me off as well, which was annoying because I came with the facts. But let's see what we got here.
He's getting harassed and doxxed.
Okay, so we've got we have a good news. We've got Piers Morgan, who's a white cuck, sellout, and we have this blonde chick who contributed absolutely nothing. She's like a teacher.
I don't know if I want to...
By the way, the debate was about the Shiloh Hendricks, because I did a video and it went pretty viral. Obviously supporting Shiloh, obviously. And anyone counter-signaling Shiloh is either a Fed, they're being paid to do it, or they're just jealous of her. So that's what we're debating to set the scene.
Or her behavior with $500,000. I don't think she should be doxxed. I don't think she should be harassed. I think she has been mistreated to the extent that no one should be... You have a right to be racist. You have a right to free speech in this country. But I'm not donating money for it, and I feel a lot worse about her GoFundMe than the one for the person who's been railroaded.
Yeah, well, Lilly Gaddis...
By the way, he's saying Carmelo Anthony was railroaded. That's what his whole beef is, that Carmelo Anthony needs money for self-defense, for his self-defense legal case, and that she doesn't need it at all. She's actually fighting legal issues right now. That they're trying to bring up an investigation. They're trying to get her charged. They have activist groups trying to get her actively charged with something and arrested for something. They organized a protest to kind of pressure the DA and the local legal system in Rochester to try to get her charged with something. They also tried to get social services involved to get CPS to take away her kids as well. So yes, they are the exact same situation, except worse. One is about saying a word, and the other, well, he's a murderer, and he admitted it when the cops came up. He was like, yeah, I did it. So that's the premise here.
Gaddis, you posted a defense of Shiloh on X. It's been viewed 2.5 million times, in which it was entitled, "White People Are Finally Fighting Back. Stand with Shiloh Hendricks." What did you mean by that? Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. 958-1000 or visit
Here's the thing. White people have been under attack for years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly.
Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
And hello, I am Gavin McInnes.
Together, we're Compound Censored.
And we'd like you to subscribe to our network that has more fantastic content you could shake a stick at. Use this promo code for a one-time super offer.
Do it. It's uncensored and oh so entertaining.
Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the N-word, first at a young child and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity.
By the way, he wants to ask, why do you care about this situation? Why do Americans care? Why should Americans care about this situation? I'm explaining that and he cuts me off.
Does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything.
It literally has everything to do with white unity. It's not even about Shiloh. It's the fact that white people are rallying behind a white person that's being railroaded right now. That's what this is about. It is about white unity, Piers. And I don't know you don't want to talk about that because that's your agenda, because you're essentially anti-white by working with other anti-white people. But that's entirely what this is all about. This has sparked a revolution of people being like, we're fucking done. They're done. They saw the Carmelo Anthony situation. They saw him get hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're like, you know what? Fuck you. Give us Shiloh. Give us Shiloh.
You've just said she's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
It's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
well, it is about her
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in a country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
Mm-hmm. I do, quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
If you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that?
He doesn't know. He's shocked. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do when confronted by someone who's just honest, okay? This is what these people do, all right? These people, this is their tactic. This is how they silence voices. This is how they silence noticing. This is how they silence you and I from noticing what's actually going on. They shut down the conversation every time by saying, you can't say that. This is a problem. Let's not talk about the issue you brought up. Let's talk about the fact that you're racist because you brought it up. No. Here's the problem, Piers. No one gives a fuck anymore. Here's the problem, Piers. That's a thing of the past, okay? In your generation, I know you're old, so you don't really get it. You don't get what young people are up to. Young people are growing up now, and those young people have turned into the leaders and the thought leaders of this country. And it's changing. The Overton window is opening before our very eyes, by the way. And the fact that you have people getting called racist now and they don't care, and hundreds of thousands of Americans donating to them and saying, fuck you, cancel culture. You know what? You got canceled for saying a naughty word. Here you go. Here's over $600,000. That's what's going on, Piers. And I know you're threatened by that because, there goes your entire platform. Like, he loves, you know how we reviewed, I think it's so ironic too that we, in a couple videos ago, we actually watched a Piers Morgan interview with some black guy. And basically the entire reason he had the black guy on there was to say, explain to the world that he's not racist. So we know where you stand, Piers, okay? We know where you stand, and you're going to have to bend over backwards, virtue signaling. And as you can tell, he turns the entire interview, the entire debate, by the way, into me being racist, which has no pertinence on the subject at hand at all. Hang on.
That makes you a despicable human being.
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why
you moved it on, dude. You wanted to hone in on this. You're interested in my personal beliefs. How about debate? How about confront the substance of my argument rather than just say, call me names? You know, he loves to talk about, oh, no ad hominems here. It's been nothing but ad hominems here.
You've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist. And you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually.
Look at this bitch in the red. She's like, I'm like, get the out. What are you doing? She contributes zero to this conversation.
For most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should be.
What do you mean your country?
Because I'm white and my
Well, there are no black people in American history. Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America, invading your white country? Is that your position?
Correct. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist, and at some
Incoming, black crash out.
At some point, we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
This girl, she's like, true. Oh my God, such racism. Can you believe she just said this is a white country for white people? The horror.
Disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
You didn't know I was going to say that? Do you know who I am? Do you just invite every random person onto your show? I think you know exactly I was going to say that. And that's why you invited me on, because you were trying to, what is that, engagement farm.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying technically black people brought up. No, technically Africans were stolen, enslaved.
Technically, blacks sold other blacks to who brought them here, if you want to get technical.
And they built this country, and the idea
picking cotton is not building the country, by the way. Like, they love to say they built this country. The country was already built when you came over here. You do realize that, right? It was actually built on the backs of indentured white servants and white people. Okay, then you guys came over here, you picked cotton for a few years, and then we released you, and you've been wreaking havoc ever since. That's about the extent of building the country that you've done. You've done more damage to the country. Just your BLM Summer of Love alone. If, let's say you built anything, that BLM Summer of Destruction alone expunges all the stuff you quote built, okay? It negatives it out. Whatever. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean.
That you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally.
I'm sorry. What's worse to you? The fact that white people are being murdered en masse by blacks? Or some woman says, get away from my bag. What do you think's worse?
Bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done, because you
see, that's the thing. They're equating now me saying the N-word, and they're like, now you're dehumanizing and basically animalizing people. Huh? Where'd you get that? That's quite the stretch. Maybe some evidence to back that up. You might as well have said that. Oh, okay, idiot.
You're just an unashamed
that's the implication of your
racist. Let me bring in Myron Gaines, because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admitted she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody.
She self-identifies as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now, how racist you are is a whole other situation. But
By the way, being racist and saying a word and not wanting to live around black people, that's a far cry from going around and lynching blacks, okay? Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. I'm not calling for that. No one's doing that, okay? So let's shut the fuck up. We're allowed to name call. I know getting called names in middle school when you were such a fucking loser back then, and you were getting called fat and ugly and a loser. I know that still sticks with you and you can't stand it, but we're adults now and no one cares.
everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh Hendricks and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organization.
Tree.
By this is for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So this whole systemic racism or police brutality, or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America.
And they never get canceled. When's the last time you ever heard of a black person getting canceled? They're allowed to write posts. Professors are literally allowed to write posts called all white people. They're literally allowed to do that. The student that started the
America's had enough of it.
White Lives Matter or It's Okay to Be White movement, he was a student, he got expelled, and he was investigated for domestic terrorism by the FBI, okay? So you don't think there's a little 2-tier system here? There absolutely is. This is why they're running cover for him, because they know this awakening has happened, and hey, Piers, it's over. It's over. The new guard has taken over. Move aside. The young people and the new guard are here, and we're more based than you can ever imagine. So be horrified, because it's happening, okay?
Chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great? No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades.
And saying that she herself uses the N-word, now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous. And it's as the only black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Here's the thing. If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky.
We're not even.
Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving the
supremacist by saying he said
gross to reward someone for bad behavior. It's one thing to tolerate it, to say that she has the right to do it, but she called an autistic 5-year-old.
There's zero proof he's autistic, okay? If somebody says he's autistic, where's the fucking proof? Where's his meds? Where's a doctor's note? Provide the receipts. I'm not buying this autistic bullshit for a second. Never bought it from the start, but they're just running with this, and now mainstream journalists, like this girl works for the Washington Post, I think. Mainstream journalists are just running with this narrative that he's autistic without even looking into it. This is your mainstream media, folks. The same mainstream media, which, by the way, ran the story that I was a trad wife when I first blew up, when there was absolutely no supporting evidence except for some comments on Twitter and for the fact that I was wearing an apron. They all run with this. These people don't do their research. They literally are reading Twitter comments, and that's how they base their research on. So these are the people telling you the news. That's terrifying. And this mommy giving her little fucking schoolgirl talk of, let's just be nice. Shut the fuck up and get out of the conversation. The big dogs are here, okay? We don't want to hear your mealy mouth bullshit.
The N-word. Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're kind of like missing the point in the actual context. You can say that it's part of this bigger meta story of black and white America, but it actually is just like a short little clip, and you don't even know the context of it, and it's actually gross. And if we can't just say that it's gross and bad, then I don't really know where we are.
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Lilly Gaddis, you retweeted Nick Fuentes, the white supremacist, by saying he said black people just raised $500,000 for a cold-blooded killer who stabbed a white teenager to death. So I don't want to hear one word about the Shiloh Hendricks fundraiser. Either everyone gets to be tribal or nobody does. Why would you retweet that?
Because I agree with it. Because we have to fight fire with fire. I mean, at some point, why
he does.
Why are people allowed to be tribal? Why are black people allowed to be tribal? But as soon as white people stand up for themselves, we're labeled a racist. And by the way, you call people racist when you want them to stop talking about things.
No, I called you a racist.
Yep. That's exactly why. And this is why, notice he cuts me off. I can't get through a full fucking sentence. You don't have no idea how frustrating this was. I came fucking prepared. I had stats. I had black violence. I had all of this research that I did. I stayed up late the night before. I fucking got up early and studied all day, got all my crime statistics, got all my shit, got all my supporting evidence, had a whole thesis, and the entire conversation was talking about me saying the N-word and me being racist. What a fucking joke, okay? And then whenever I would try to present my arguments, which I had meticulously planned for, by the way, completely prepared, came prepared with receipts, what do? They cut me off as soon as I start to get right over the target. And that's how you know I am right.
Racist because you admitted you were racist. Hang on. I called, just to be clear, I called you a racist because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say, I don't like what happens to be coming out of this community or that community. How is that a bad thing? How is that not just a preference?
Because you've literally made black people sound lesser humans. You don't want to live around them. You want to use the N-word in relation to them, a word that you know causes that community unbelievable offense.
Is that my fault? If they have bad behavior, if they want to act in a certain way, if I have to cross the street and be afraid that maybe because of the crime statistics that are very real, by the way, is that my fault or is that their fault for having bad behavior?
That's mind-boggling to me.
Of course it's mind-boggling to you. Of course the blacks mind-boggled by this idea that a young white girl might be a little bit fearful if she's walking down the street and sees a group of black thugs coming down. Mind-boggling that any person would ever think, you know what, maybe I should cross to the other side. Maybe because of considering the FBI crime stats on black and on white violence, maybe the predilection of blacks, the, low impulse control and quick jump to violence, maybe that has something to do with it. But no, his mind is boggled. They want white people to stop listening to their instincts. Their instincts which are telling them, be racist. This would be a good time to be racist. Being racist could save your life. They actually want people to not be racist so they'll be murdered. Okay? Bottom line. If you're racist, it could save your life. So sorry, I'll take being racist and alive over being not racist and dead.
For multiple reasons. I mean, we're talking about bad behavior. We've never lynched you. We've never enslaved.
Oh, right. But you continue to murder us en masse. In fact, where was my stat from all my studying? Black on white crime is 45 times higher than the reverse. Blacks, 12% of the population, commit 50% of the murders and 60% of the robberies. I'm sure you've out-sprinted us as far as crimes, okay? You can name a few lynchings were probably justified, by the way. We just assume that the people who were lynched were innocent. Like, okay, nice presumption of innocence. No, they were usually actually criminals like they are today.
Enslaved you. We've never done any of the deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done to black people, and yet
you continue to murder us on the daily, okay? Metcalf's barely cold in his grave, and you're saying blacks have never done anything to whites? Are you fucking kidding me?
Claim some kind of moral superiority in the midst of, and again, in the context of a conversation where a white woman is calling a 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, and we're talking about black people's bad behavior. This is absurd. And the idea of fighting fire with fire, again, is a dishonest argument. Just to take us back to the point here, the people who are supporting Carmelo
up for literally decades, and this has been a response to it. You have people that are coming out and supporting someone who you guys might deem as a terrible racist, but I think it's also very important to understand how we got here, because if we're going to look at the smaller problem, we can't look at the bigger problem, and it's what I said before, unchecked systemic.
All right, Marc Lamont Hill, your last words on this.
This repeated use of the word, I think, first of all, I want to just register that as offensive. Particularly as someone who doesn't identify as a member of that community and who is not, right? I think that's incredibly
I'm the definition of African American. I'm the definition of African American.
And troublesome. And to as a Sudanese American or an outsider who's using African American in a very technical term, the same way that Elon Musk is an African American, I think it is a bit disingenuous. But the bigger issue here, I think, is that this idea of equating of one side to the other side often loses track of this issue of power. To use as example, when black people stand up and say, hey, let's build our own stuff. Hey, let's have a black power movement. That is not the same as a white power. I'll let you speak uninterrupted. Let me finish, please, my Sudanese brother. So when a black person says, hey, let's preserve our culture, I have no problem with Italians or Irish people or anyone else saying let's preserve our culture. But when we don't talk about ethnicity, but actual race, and when white people say let's preserve whiteness, it's an exclusionary practice. It's about preserving laws and practices and tactics that do harm to other people. A black power movement was about opening stores and building businesses. A white
Really? Black Wall Street? Is that what it's about? So his closing argument is that white power is bad, black power good. White movement's bad, black movement's good. Seems like actually racism to me.
Power movement was a white power. That's the giga. A white power movement was about something very, 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 very different. A white power movement included lynchings and included Ku Klux Klan, etc. So let's not pretend that these are opposite sides of the same coin. When white people say, let's save our country, and even using language of our country, when black people built this thing, when you say that, you're talking about forcing people out of the country. You're talking about laws that discriminate. You're talking about doing harm to people. Let's not pretend these are the same thing, just like these GoFundMe campaigns are not the same thing. I'm okay if everybody gets out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. I'd love that. But let's not pretend that supporting someone for a fair trial is the same thing as supporting a grown white woman berating and calling the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic black child. And the fact that everyone in here can't be unanimous in condemning that says exactly how they're not the same.
I totally agree. I'm going to go to Lilly Gaddis and just ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on, then,
have
say it. Say
you
the
will
M-
not have
Go on,
free
say,
speech.
go on. Say the M-word. Go on.
No.
Hang on.
Don't invite. No.
No.
I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left here, and asking her to say the N-word while I'm here is ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person and say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do, but we already know she's racist.
I hear you.
And I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that.
And that was that. Of course, it ended appropriately, proving all of our points about the low impulse control and the quick jump to violence. So I think that he vindicated us all. Thank you, black man, random black man. I don't know even who the fuck he is. Thank you, black person, for proving all of our points. So Anyway, that was a fun time. It's been getting very favorable reviews everywhere. Piers is getting absolutely destroyed. I love, by the way, he entitles the name of this YouTube video, "Shame on You, Piers Morgan tears down self-proclaimed racist." That's what he entitles it. The ironic part is when you go to look at his comments, I don't think there was one positive comment about him. It was all just W Myron, W Lilly, Piers is such a cuck, Piers is such an idiot, unsubscribing, this show sucks, what happened, you're woke. So much for destroying me, dude. And that's why I was just sitting here smiling, because I was like, keep on, do it, keep on berating me and calling me names, because you're actually making me look great. I was like, I'm going to come out of this looking golden. And what was so funny, too, was I know Piers was sitting here like, man, I really destroyed. The people are going to love this. They're going to watch this, me annihilate this girl. And thanks, you just made me more popular. Like every time these people try to take me down, my aura and my power levels increase. It's true. When the blacks came for me, it launched me into this. And when Piers Morgan was coming for me, thank you. You're launching me even higher. I appreciate it, Piers. You did me a solid, just like the black people did. So good luck trying to take me down, because it just makes me more popular. And it makes people like me even more. And other people that speak out like this. So actually, me and Myron have had kind of a beef in the past. But I texted him after that, and I was like, hey, I appreciate you having my back, and I was glad on the panel. I know we've had our issues, but I appreciate that, because if it wouldn't have been for him, I would have literally been just completely ganged up on. And he could have thrown me under the bus, but I appreciated him having my back. So we have patched things up. We're friends now, so that's good, because I prefer to make friends and allies rather than enemies. I've got enough fucking enemies as it is. But yeah, that was a little update from that. That's good. See, look at this. Racism brings together people. It brings together people. Makes unlikely alliances and unlikely friendships.
So if you enjoyed that clip,
then subscribe to Compound Censored using this promo code.